Hey everybody, welcome back to the Here to See channel. We have a Bible book overview for 1 Timothy. 1 Timothy, an awesome book of the Bible. And as always, we will take a look at Dr. Chuck Swindoll's Insight for Living Ministries that has overviews on each book of the Bible. To include who wrote the book, where are we, why is 1 Timothy so important, what's the big idea, how do I apply this, and the Bible Study Aid, a wonderful Bible study chart provided by Insight for Living Ministries. But first, let's dive in. The Bible book of 1 Timothy. Who wrote the book? The first of Paul's final series of letters, which along with 2 Timothy and Titus are called the Pastoral Epistles. 1 Timothy offers practical and pastoral advice from the aging Apostle Paul to a young pastor named Timothy working in the church at Ephesus. More than a decade prior to writing this letter, Paul had first met Timothy in the city of Lystra in Asia Minor, where Timothy was known and respected by the Christians. Acts chapter 16, verses 1 through 4. Upon recognizing Timothy's impressive qualities, Paul recruited the young man to travel with him as he continued his second missionary journey. The presence of Timothy would have met an important need for Paul, their friendship coming on the heels of Paul's split with his close friend and partner in missions, Barnabas, chapter 15, verses 36 to 41. And this is a map of the area during the time of 1 Timothy. Macedonia. Paul writes his first letter to Timothy in AD 66, possibly from Macedonia. And Timothy receives the first letter in Ephesus, many, many miles away. Fascinating, isn't it? Where are we? The Bible's silence on the ultimate fate of Paul has engendered a great deal of debate in modern times. And the book of Acts ends with Paul sitting in a Roman prison awaiting his hearing before the Roman emperor, a privilege of appeal that all Roman citizens possessed. However, the writing of the pastoral epistles clearly dates to a time after the events of Acts. So where was Paul when he wrote 1 Timothy? Paul had expected the Romans to release him from prison, something that likely happened near the end of AD 62, Philippians chapter 2, verse 24. His release allowed him the opportunity to travel to Ephesus and eventually place Timothy in ministry at that church. Paul then went on to preach in Macedonia, where he heard reports of Timothy's work at Ephesus that prompted him to write 1 Timothy, probably in AD 63. Why is 1 Timothy so important? 1 Timothy presents the most explicit and complete instructions for church leadership and organization in the entire Bible. This includes sections on appropriate conduct in worship gatherings, the qualifications of elders and deacons, and the proper order of church discipline. Paul advised Timothy on these practical matters in a way that would have helped the young pastor to emphasize the purity that should characterize Christian leaders and the gatherings they oversee. What is the big idea? Timothy's youth, no doubt, served him well, allowing for the energy and vigor he needed to serve his people. However, it also caused inevitable difficulties with older Christians who may not have taken quickly to the leadership of such a young man because of his lack of knowledge and experience in leadership. It was important to Paul that Timothy set an example of consistent faith and good conscience, remaining above reproach and exercising the spiritual gifts that God had given him. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verses 12 to 16. However, Paul knew that such a task would not be easy for the young man. Therefore, on 2 occasions, Paul encouraged Timothy to fight the good fight. Chapter 1, verse 18, chapter 6, verse 12. Perseverance in what was good often became a slog for Timothy, one that required thick skin and clear purpose. How do I apply this? How do we apply this? The leaders of our churches fill important roles as they participate in encouraging the spiritual growth of Christians under their care. We know the significance of these men in our churches and in our personal lives, but 1 Timothy helps us to gain a clearer understanding of the proper qualifications and roles for church leaders. Paul's letter shows us those things he hoped Timothy would address in his ministry, providing a template of sorts that our leaders can follow in their own ministries. How do your leaders implement Paul's exhortations in 1 Timothy? Our churches will be strongest when they are closest to the biblical vision laid out for them. As you look at your church or look at a new one, consider the priorities of the leaders. Look for an emphasis on sound doctrine, on purity with the leaders' personal lives, and on living out the Christian faith by example. Find those qualities, and you will more than likely find a church where you can thrive. Copyright 2010 by Charles R. Swindoll Incorporated. And as always, now we'll look at the Bible study chart provided by Insight for Living Ministries for the Bible book of 1 Timothy. And as you can see as we zoom in, 1 Timothy is divided to 3 different groupings. The first grouping, personal encouragement and exhortation for 1 Timothy chapter 1, covering Timothy's task, Paul's testimony, the gospel's trustworthiness. The second grouping, the ministry, covers 1 Timothy chapters 2 and 3, men and women, prayer and submission, elders and deacons, qualifications for leadership. And the third grouping, the minister, 1 Timothy chapters 4 through 6, seeing the importance of faithful teaching, sound doctrine, true godliness, perseverance, paying attention to various age groups, widows, elders, wisdom, developing a new perspective toward masters and slaves, rich and poor, internals and externals, eternal versus temporal. As always, an awesome Bible study chart. Might want to check that out. This has been our overview of the book of 1 Timothy. Come along with us as we read through 1 Timothy, just like we've done with other books of the Bible. Check out our videos. We do a Hear Journal for each chapter of each book of the Bible, including 1 Timothy. Come along with us, a chapter at a time, including a Hear Journal, with a lovely reading from the New Living Translation and a wonderful narration. So come along with us. 1 Timothy chapter 1, we'll see you there. And comment below, share your experiences with us. And if you don't know Jesus as your Lord and Savior, read the Gospel of John chapter 3 to learn about His forgiveness and talk to God about it. You can always talk to God. Seek Him now. God bless. See you. 1 Timothy chapter 1.